report says we are at stage 6, paragraph page 459.
Mm,
Okay, and our last headword was ground, newer type of
ground.
lesson.
Mm.
Okay, so let's start with our revision. Ready?
Okay.
Here we go. How long do you have to be away from home before you begin to miss your family and friends? How long do you have to be away from home before you begin to miss your family and friends? I have to be
I
away
have
from
to be
home
away from
for
home
about
about 1 week
before I
to
begin
before I
to miss
begin
my family
to
and
miss my
friends.
family and friends.
Did you miss the last lesson? Did you miss the last lesson? Yes or no?
No,
I
I
didn't
didn't
miss the
miss
last
the
lesson.
last lesson.
Very good. Do you think that a union of all the countries in Europe will ever be possible? Do you think that a union of all the countries in Europe will ever be possible? Yes or no?
Mm, yes,
I think that
I
a
think
union
that a
of
union
all the
of
countries in
all the
Europe
countries in
will
Europe
one day be
will
possible.
one day be possible.
Where what is a trade union? What is a trade union? A trade union
A trade
is an
union is
organization
an
composed
organization
of workers
composed of
from a
workers
particular
from a
industry.
particular
It
industry.
protects and
It
the
protects and
workers
the workers
and fight to improve
and fight to improve
their pay and
their
conditions.
pay and conditions.
Right? Are you in favor of trade unions? Are you in favor of trade unions? Yes or no? I'm
Yes,
in favor
I'm
of
in
trade
favor of
unions.
trade unions.
Very good. What can we use rope for? What can we use rope for? We can use rope
We can use
for
rope
climbing
for
mountains,
climbing
pulling
mountains,
things, etc.
pulling things, etc.
Very good. What did you see if you climbed the stairs to the top of your building? What did you see if you climbed the stairs to the top of your building? If I climb
If
the
I
stairs to
climb
the
the
top of
stairs to
my
the top
building,
of my
I'd
building,
see.
I'd see other buildings.
Very good. Is it easy to climb to the top of the music industry and stay there? Is it easy to climb to the top of the music industry and stay there? No, it
No,
isn't
it
easy
isn't
to
easy
climb to the
to
top
climb
of
to
the
the
music
top of the
industry
music
and stay
industry
there.
and stay
It's
there.
difficult.
It's difficult.
Right? If you lost your keys, where would you look for them first? If you lost your keys, where would you look for them first? If I lost
If
my
I
keys,
lost my
I would
keys,
look for
I
them
would look for them in my bag
first. Very
first.
good. Where do people go when they are looking for justice? Where do people go when they are looking for justice? People go to the
People
law
go
courts
to the law
when they are
courts
looking for
when they are
justice.
looking for justice.
Greg, would you like the job of a judge? Would you like the job of a judge? Yes or no?
Yes,
I'd like the
I'd
job
like
of a
the
judge.
job of a judge.
Wicked, how do we form verbs from certain adjectives or nouns? How do we form verbs from certain adjectives or nouns? We form verbs
We form
from certain
verbs from
adjectives
certain
or nouns
adjectives or
by adding
nouns
the letters
by adding
en.
the letters en.
Give me some examples. Give me some examples, please. Dark, darken.
Dark,
Short,
darken.
shorten.
Short, shorten.
Wicked, what does the verb to darken mean? What does the verb to darken mean? The verb
The
to
verb
darken
to
means
darken
to make
means
darker
to make
or
darker
to get darker.
or to get darker.
If our trousers are too long, what must we do to them? If our trousers are too long, what must we do to them? If our
If
trousers
our
are too
trousers
long,
are too
we must
long,
shorten
we
them.
must shorten them.
Do the days lengthen or shorten as we go towards summer? Do the days lengthen or shorten as we go towards summer? The days
The
lengthen
days
as we
lengthen
go towards
as
summer.
we go towards summer.
Where do you think sport can strengthen the friendship between different countries? Do you think sport can strengthen the friendship between different countries? Yes or no? I
Yes,
think sport
I think
can
sport
strengthen
can
the friendship
strengthen the
between
friendship
different countries.
between different countries.
Very good. How many syllables must an adjective or noun have in order for us to form a verb from it? How many syllables must an adjective or noun have in order for us to form a verb from it? An adjective or
An
noun
adjective or
must have
noun
only
must have
one
only
syllable
one
in
syllable
order for us
in order for
to form a
us
verb from it.
to form a verb from it.
Very good. Can we form verbs from all adjectives and nouns of one syllable? Can we form verbs from all adjectives and nouns of one syllable? No. we can't
No,
form
we can't
verbs
form
from
verb
all
from
adjectives
all
and
adjectives
nouns of
and
one
nouns
syllable.
of one syllable.
Give me an example of a one syllable adjective from which we can't form a verb. Give me an example of a one syllable adjective from which we can form a verb, please. An example
An
of a one
example of
syllable
a one
adjective
syllable
from
adjective
which we can't
from
form
which
a
we
verb
can't form a
is
verb
small.
is small.
Very good. Give me a sentence with the word obvious. Give me a sentence with the word obvious in it, please. It is obvious
It is
from what he
obvious from
says
what he
that he
said
is not
that
interested
he is
in the
not
job.
interested in the job.
The small children sometimes say they aren't tired when
The
they
small
obviously
children
are.
sometimes says they
They're
aren't tired
when they obviously are.
when they obviously are.
Yes, small children. Yes,
Small
small
children.
children
Yes, small children
sometimes say
sometimes
they aren't
say
tired
they aren't
when
tired
they obviously
when
are.
they only
Obvious.
obviously are
Why? Why? Because they don't want
because
to
they
go
don't
to bed.
want to go to bed.
Very good. What is an ache? What is an ache? An ache
An
is a
ache
continuous
is a
physical
continuous
pain,
physical
such
pain
as toothache,
such as
headache,
toothache,
stomach ache,
headache, stomach
earache,
ache,
etc.
earache, etc.
What might you get if you ate too much? What might you get if you ate too much? I might get
I might
stomach
get
ache
stomach
if
ache
I ate
if
too
I
much.
ate too much.
Where should you go if you get toothache? Where should you go if you get toothache? I should go
I
to the
should go
dentist
to the
if I
dentist
get toothache.
if I get toothache.
What kind of things give you a headache? What kind of things give you a headache? The kind of things
The kind of
that give me
things
a
that
headache
give me a
are
headache
noise, too
are
much work,
noise,
hot
too much
weather,
work,
etc.
hot weather, etc.
Where who was the last person to rule your country? Who was the last person to rule your country? Mr. Suga
Mr. Suga,
was the last
Mr. Suga
person
was the last
to rule
person
my country.
to rule my country.
Just a few months. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you understand the rules of football? Do you understand the rules of football? Yes or no? I
Yes, I
understand the rules
understand
of
the
football.
rules of football.
Do the rules of English grammar sometimes confuse you? Do the rules of English grammar sometimes confuse you? Yes, the rules of
Yes, the
English
rules
grammar
of English grammar
sometimes confuse me.
sometimes confuse
Do
me.
you find computers confusing? Do you find computers confusing? Yes or no?
No,
I don't find
I don't
computers
find
confusing.
computers confusing.
Would you be confused if I suddenly walk out of the room for no reason and didn't come back? Would you be confused if I suddenly walked out of the room for no reason and didn't come back? Yes, I'd be
Yes,
confused
I'd be
if you
confused
suddenly
if you
walked out of the
suddenly walk
room
out of the
for no
room
reason
for no
and
reason
didn't come back.
and didn't come back.
Reggie, what can we say instead of should? What can we say instead of should? We can say ought
We can say
instead of should.
ought instead
Instead
of
of should.
should.
Very good. Give me an example. Give me an example, please. I ought to call
I ought to
my dad
call my
because
dad
it's his
because
birthday.
it's his birthday.
Very good. When we borrow money, ought we to pay it back as soon as possible? When we borrow money, ought we to pay it back as soon as possible? Yes. When we
Yes,
borrow
when
money,
we borrow
we ought
money,
to pay it
we
back
ought to pay it
as soon
back
as possible.
as soon as possible.
What ought we to do before crossing the road? What ought we to do before crossing the road? We ought to look
We ought to
both
look
ways
both
before
ways
crossing the
before
road.
crossing the road.
Do you think children ought to be allowed to go to bed whenever they want? Do you think children ought to be allowed to go to bed whenever they want? No, I don't
No,
think
I don't
children
think
ought to
children
be allowed
ought to be
to go
allowed
to bed
to go to
whenever they
bed
want.
whenever they want.
Very good. Is the surface of this table rough? Is the surface of this table rough? No, the
No,
surface
the
of that
surface
table isn't rough.
of that table isn't
It's
rough.
smooth.
It's smooth.
When you travel by boat, do you prefer the sea to be rough? When you travel by boat, do you prefer the sea to be rough? No. When I
No,
travel by
when
boat,
I travel by
I don't
boat,
prefer the
I
sea
don't
to be rough.
mm,
I
I
don't
won't
prefer
I don't prefer
the sea to be rough.
the sea to be rough.
I prefer it to be
I
calm.
prefer it to be calm
Very good. Why? Why? Because a rough
because
sea
a rough sea
makes me feel seasick.
makes me feel seasick.
If someone tells you that they're feeling rough, what do they mean? If someone tells you that they're feeling rough, what do they mean? If someone
If
tells me
someone
that
tells
they're
me
feeling
that
rough,
they're feeling
they
rough,
mean
They
They aren't
mean
feeling
they
very
aren't
well.
feeling very well.
Very roughly, how many people would you say there were in China? Roughly, how many people would you say there were in China? I'd say there
I'd
were
say
roughly
there
about
were roughly about
how many? 1 billion
one
people
billion
in
people
China.
in China.
Do you like rough weather? Do you like rough weather? Yes or no?
No,
I don't like
I
rough
don't
weather.
like rough
I
weather.
prefer calm
I
weather.
prefer calm weather.
Which do you think is the roughest sport one can play? Which do you think is the roughest sport one can play? I think
I
maybe
think
rugby
maybe
is the roughest
rugby
sport
is the roughest
one can
sport
play.
one can play.
Very good. What do we usually mean by the ground, by the word ground? What do we usually mean by the word ground? By the word ground,
By the word
we usually
ground, we
mean
usually
the surface
mean
of the
the
land.
surface of the land.
Are there any shops in your town built below the level of the ground? Are there any shops in your town built below the level of the ground? Yes or no? There
Yes,
are some
there
shops
are
in
some
my
shops
town
in my
built
town
below the level of
built
the ground.
below the level of the ground.
Where? In?
In the station,
Very good. When a table is not level, what must we do? When a table is not level, what must we do? When a table
when
is
the
not
table
level,
is not
we must
level,
put
we
something
must put
under one
something
of its
under one
legs.
of its legs.
Has your town got an underground railway? Has your town got an underground railway? Yes or no? My
Yes,
town's
my
got an
town's got
underground
an
railway.
underground railway.
What's on the ground floor of your building? What's on the ground floor of your building? There's a
There's a shop
on the ground floor
on the ground
of my
floor
building.
of my building.
Where's the biggest football ground in your town? Where's the biggest football ground in your town? The biggest football
The
ground
biggest football
in my
ground
town
in my
is
town is Nagai Stadium.
very good. Are the grounds of some famous old buildings in your country open to the public? Are the grounds of some famous old buildings in your country open to the public? Yes, the grounds
Yes,
of
the
some
grounds
famous
of
old
some
buildings
famous old
in
buildings
my country
in
are
my
open to the
country are
public.
open to the public.
Very good. Okay, that's the end of our revision. Let's have new work.
Okay.
Okay, repeat. Educate.
Educate.
Educated.
Educated.
Very good. Okay, listen. Educate is a verb. It means to teach. For example, parents start educating their children before they go to school. Educated is an adjective. It is having been well thought and learned a lot. For example, by an educated person, we mean somebody who has continued their studies to a high level. Let's practice. How can parents start educating their children before they go to school? How can parents start educating their children before they go to school? Parents can start
Parents can
educating
start
their children
educating their
before they
children
go to school
before they go
by
to
teaching
school
them to
by
read and
teaching
write,
them to read and
etc.
write, etc.
What do we mean by an educated person? What do we mean by an educated person? By an educated
By
person,
an educated
we
person,
mean somebody
we mean
who has
somebody
continued
who has
their
continued
studies to
their
a high
studies
level.
to a high level,
Very good. Next, repeat. Making suggestion.
making suggestion.
Very good. Okay, so let's talk about making a suggestion. Listen, here are four common ways in which we can make a suggestion in English. Number one, we can say, shall we go to the cinema? Let's go to the cinema. How about going to the cinema? And why don't we go to the cinema? Let's practice. Tell me four common ways in which we can make a suggestion. Tell me four common ways in which we can make a suggestion, please. Four common ways
For
in
common
which
ways
we
in
can make
which
a
we can
suggestion
make a
are,
suggestion are,
shall we wait for him?
shall we wait for him?
Let's wait for him.
Let's wait for him.
How about waiting for
How
him?
about waiting for
Why don't
him?
we wait for
Why
him?
don't we wait for him?
Very good. Next, repeat the imperative.
The imperative.
Very good. Okay, let's have the imperatives. Okay, repeat order.
Order.
Very good. Order is a verb. It means to instruct. When we want to say something stronger than just a suggestion or even order someone to do something, we use the imperative. In English, the imperative is very easy. We just use the infinitive without to. For example, we say, go away. Okay. For a negative imperative, we put the word don't before the infinitive. We say, don't go away. Okay, let's practice. How do we make the imperative in English? How do we make the imperative in English? We make the
We make
imperative
the
in English
imperative in
by using
English
the
by
infinitive
using the
without to.
infinitive without to.
Give me some examples. Give me some examples, please. Give me the book.
Give, give me the book.
Do it now.
Do it now.
Have a nice day.
Have a nice day.
Very good. How do we make a negative imperative? How do we make a negative imperative? We make a
We
negative
make a
imperative
negative
by
imperative
putting the word
by
don't
putting the word
before
don't
the infinitive.
before the infinitive.
Give me some examples. Give me some examples, please. Don't give him the book.
Don't give him the book.
Don't be late.
Don't be late.
Don't forget to email me.
Don't forget to email me.
Very good. Let's repeat. Overeat. Overeat.
Over
Overeat.
overeat,
Oversleep.
oversleep,
Overwork.
overwork,
Overcook.
overcook,
Undercook.
undercook,
Overpay.
overpay,
Underpay.
underpay.
Very good. Okay, listen. When we put the word over before a verb, it sometimes means to do something excessively the necessary. Let's practice. What does it mean when we put the word over before a verb? What does it mean when we put the word over before a verb? When we put the
When we
word
put
over
the word
before a
over
verb,
before a
it
bar,
sometimes
it
means
sometimes
to do
means
something
to do
excessively.
something excessively.
Give me some examples. Give me some examples, please. Oversleep,
Oversleep,
overeat,
overeat,
etc.
etc.
What might happen if we overeat? What might happen if we overeat? If we overeat,
If we
we
overeat,
might get stomach
we
ache.
might get stomach ache.
Have you ever been late for work because you've overslept? Have you ever been late for work because you've overslept? Yes or no?
Yes,
I've been late for
I've
work
been late for work
because I've overslept.
because I overslept.
Our nurses and doctors in busy hospitals often overwork. Are nurses and doctors in busy hospitals often overwork? Yes. Nurses
Yes,
and doctors
nurses and
in busy
doctors in
hospitals
busy
are often
hospitals are
overworked.
often overworked.
Very good. Okay, next listen. Some verbs like overcook and overpay form their opposite with the word under. For example, undercook and underpay. Let's practice. What are the contraries of overcook and overpay? What are the contraries of overcook and overpay? The contraries
The
of
contraries
overcook
of
and
overcook
overpay
and
are
overpay are
undercook and
undercook
underpay.
and underpay.
What do we mean when we say that somebody's underpaid for the work they do? What do we mean when we say that somebody is underpaid for the work they do? When we say
When
that
we say
somebody is
that somebody
underpaid
is
for the
underpaid
work they do,
for the work they
we mean
do,
they are
we
not paid
mean they
enough
are not paid
for the
enough
work they do.
for the work they do.
Very good. Next, repeat. Charge,
Charge,
serious,
serious,
commit,
commit,
battery,
battery,
service.
service.
Very good. Okay, let's hit charge. The word charge is a verb. It is to formally say that someone is guilty of a crime, charge of a crime. For example, she's been charged with murder. Another meaning of charge is to be responsible for something. For example, to be responsible for a business also means to be in charge of a business. Charge can also mean make one pay. For example, if I were seriously overcharged in a restaurant, I'd ask to speak to the manager. Serious is an adjective. It means having an important or dangerous result. For example, murder is a serious crime. Commit is a verb. It is to do something illegal or wrong. For example, people who commit serious crimes are first taken to court and then, if they are found guilty, they are sent to prison. Battery is a noun. It is a device that produces electricity to provide power for radios, cars, smartphones, etc. For example, a rechargeable battery, which you can charge. By service charge, we mean an amount of money charged for serving a customer in the restaurant. Let's practice. What happens to people who are charged by the police with committing serious crimes? What happens to people who are charged by the police with committing serious crimes? People who are charged
People who
by
are
the
charged
police
by the
with committing
police
serious
with
crimes
committing serious
are first
crimes
taken to
are
court.
first taken
And
to
then,
court, and then,
if they are found guilty,
if they are found
they are
guilty,
sent to prison.
they are sent to prison.
Right? How would you feel if you were told to charge the enemy in a battle? How would you feel if you were told to charge the enemy in a battle? If I were told
If I
to
were
charge
told
the
to
enemy in a
charge the
battle,
enemy in a
I'd
battle,
probably
I'd
feel
probably
very
feel
tired,
very tired.
very afraid. Sorry, very afraid.
Very afraid.
Wait, if you had to
Yeah.
be in charge of a big business, what kind of business would you choose? If you had to be in charge of a big business, what kind of business would you choose? If I had to
If
be
I
in
had to
charge
be
of a
in
big
charge
business,
of a big
I
business,
choose
I choose I
what kind of
choose
business?
AI
AI business, AI
AI
technology.
business. Yeah.
If you were seriously overcharged in a restaurant, would you ask to speak to the manager? If you were seriously overcharged in a restaurant, would you ask to speak to the manager? Yes. If I were
Yes, if
seriously
I was
overcharged
seriously
in a
overcharged
restaurant,
in a
I'd ask to
restaurant,
speak to
I'd
the
ask
manager.
to speak to the manager.
Very good. Have you ever refused to pay the service charge in a restaurant? Have you ever refused to pay the service charge in a restaurant? Yes or no?
No,
I've never
I've
refused
never
to pay the
refused to
service
pay
charge
the service
in a
charge
restaurant.
in a restaurant.
Very good. Okay, one last one. Another use of the word charge is in charging a battery. For example, in a mobile phone. Let's practice. What's another use of the word charge? What's another use of the word charge? Another use
Another
of the word
use of
charge
the verb
is
charge
in charging a
is in
battery.
charging a
For
battery,
example,
or
in a mobile
for
phone.
example, in the mobile phone.
Where how often do you charge your mobile? How often do you have to recharge your mobile phone? I have to
I
recharge
have to
my mobile
recharge
phone
my mobile phone
how many times a
every
day?
day,
Every day,
once a day.
once a day. Very good. Okay, so now let's move on to reading.
Okay.
Okay, so our reading is at stage 5, paragraph page 371. Last headword was servant. Okay,
71.
please start at page 372. Wheel lorry.
Okay. Wheel lorry. Does a lorry have fewer wheels than a car? No, a lorry doesn't have fewer wheels than a car. It has more wheels. Arrow centimeter meter
Centimeter.
centimeter meter. About how long is an arrow? An arrow is about a meter long. How many centimeters make a meter? 100 centimeters make a meter. Beard. Do you know anybody who has a long beard? Yes, I know somebody who has a long beard. True, false, paper. Is it false that the opposite of heaven is hell? No, it isn't false that the opposite of heaven is hell. It's true. Is everything we read in the newspapers true? No, not everything we read in the newspaper is true. Some things are true and some things are false. Why do you think this is so? I think maybe it's because newspapers haven't always got time to make sure that what they write is completely true.
Very good.
Maintain. Is it cheap to maintain a large house? No, it isn't cheap to maintain a large house. It's expensive. It takes. Iron. How do we translate the words it takes? We translate the words it takes
In Japanese.
かかる
In
how
Japanese.
long in Japanese.
Very good.
How long does it take you to go home from here? It takes me about 10 minutes to go home from here. Does it take longer to fly from here to Ireland than to go by train and ship? No, it it doesn't take
Long.
longer to fly from here to Ireland than to go by train and ship. It takes less time. About how long would it take us to reach the station from here if we walked very fast? It would take us about 5 minutes to reach the station from here if we walked very fast. Amount. Amount to what
Okay.
amount of money? Ah,
Okay, but we
okay.
stopped there
Mm,
for today. But very good,
yeah.
very